Hi. There's a question I get asked a lot by students and future entrepreneurs or anyone who just wants to get started in a business. And that question is, how do I know what to build? Like it's really hard. And for a long time, I didn't have a good answer. Just starting out, it can feel like everything important in the world has already been done by people smarter than you, has more money than you, or more well-connected than you. I started working with startups early in my career with the goal of eventually getting to a point where I can start my own business. But the question, how do I know what to build, has always been on my mind since day one. The advice I kept hearing around startup veterans was find the next big wave and get there before anyone else. So I spent a lot of time thinking about an idea that was ahead, that it just ended up making me late for everything. And now with AI accelerating everything, I imagine that feeling can be a lot worse for someone who wants to get started. Last year, half of all venture capital on Earth, over 200 billion, went into AI. But even with that, 80% of them are expected to fail. And the main reason is that at 42%, they built something no one needed. All of these statistics, they can be daunting. On one hand, it says startups, they fail all the time. And the reason is that there's no demand. On the other hand, it also says that you're already kind of too late to the new shiny AI thing. If you look at these numbers when you're trying to get started, you're either too late or probably going to build something no one needs. Then one day, I stopped looking at these numbers or what was ahead because thinking about that only makes it harder to start. And it doesn't necessarily point to what was needed in the world, only what wasn't. So I stopped and I started to look at problems that weren't in the future, but problems that have always been here, the problems that I had. To quote Warren Buffett, with AI, it can change everything in the world, except how people think and behave. I started asking, what is true about humans that has always been true? So things like people want to feel seen. People trust those who are honest with them, even if the truth is uncomfortable. People are naturally curious. People need community, and people crave validation. And last of all of us have a slightly complicated relationship with our money. And that last problem was something that I felt was extremely important and also relevant. In hindsight, we found that it was also relevant in Thailand as well, because almost half of us last year had to borrow money to make ends meet. This was the result, I believe, of the lack of focus of financial literacy in formal education. A study found that only 15% of Thais learned about financial literacy and personal finance through formal education, while more than half acquired knowledge online from YouTube and TikTok. And that also is true for me. I looked at my own bank statement like one day after working for around 4 to 5 years, and I realized I had no idea where half of my money went. Right? Even though I was getting promotions every year, I felt like I was in the same place where I started. And because I worked in financial tech, I thought this is an easy problem to fix, right? I just need an app to track my spending. I just know how to manage my spending better, right? And sure, there were apps, a lot of them. I tried them, but I couldn't stick to a habit with any of them. Like, sure, they all seemed to be functional. They could add numbers, but none of them really served me as a regular overworked employee. With all of this technology, right? Why has no one made a solution for what I thought was a very simple solution? I started to think about why. You would think that the banks dominating the country's financial infrastructure, they would be aware of this problem and they would have a solution for it. But if you really think about it, banks had no incentive to solve this problem. Number one, it was too small for them to care about. Number two, it was too personal for them to get right. And number three is that it's too contradictory for a system built around debt and spending. So there was a gap. Not a sexy gap, but it was an overlooked gap. And when it was a gap between what the financial system was built to care about and what a regular person needed on a Friday night at the end of the month. So that gap led to our idea, a chatbot for personal expense tracking, accessible through the country's most popular social platform. That chatbot today is used by more than 500,000 people in Thailand. And we had no idea that would happen. But I like to think it happened because we started from a problem that has always been true. All of us have a slightly uncomfortable relationship with our money. So when we started building the chatbot, we knew it was a great product to use, but we had a huge challenge ahead of us. How do we convince people we have never met to trust a technology built by nobodies? So we went back to the unchanging things that I mentioned, we know to be true for humans. People want to feel seen. So the chatbot acknowledges them as family members. She's an aunt, and the users are her nieces or her nephews, not simply a user of a digital product. People trust who are honest with them. People trust people who are honest with them. We made the chatbot scold them when they overspend on their budget. People are naturally curious. So we made the brand and application look like something a bank would never do. And people need community. So we made their financial experience shareable, just like any other experience that you share online today. People have insecurities and always crave validation. So the chatbot, at the end of the month, encourages them and gives them ideas about what they can do just to do a bit better next time. And we reached 100,000 users within a week from virality. We also did this, I believe, by doubling down on trust and transparency. Being a finance app, we knew we had to earn our users' trust because they were giving access to data that is very private. So we talked openly about how we came to be. We shared the challenges that we were facing. And when we made mistakes, we said so as well. The more we opened up, the more people trusted us. And it turns out that being honest is not just an ethical choice. It's our growth strategy. And it's one that anyone can do today, including you. Once we knew we had something, people started telling us almost unanimously to raise money, to get investment, to hire fast, grow fast, and then scale before everyone else does. And we said, hold on, not so fast. Not because we were naive about what investment could do for us, but because we'd watched what it did to other companies. How slowly, almost invisibly, the investor agenda started to replace the original reason the company existed. Growth at all costs, optimizing the funnel, monetizing everything. The users eventually stopped being people and became metrics. And we didn't want that. What we wanted was our users' voice to be the loudest one in the room. Saying no to investment wasn't just a financial decision, it was a values decision. It was how we protected the thing that made us worth using in the first place. So if you ask me, did you always have these set of values since day one? I would say no. But after seeing the impact of our creation on hundreds of thousands of people and how important it can be to someone, it just didn't feel right to capitalize instantly. Let me give you 3 examples of how important a chatbot auntie can become to someone. The first one came early. We found that teachers were using the product in classrooms. Even though we didn't market to the education industry, but because it was the friendliest way a teacher could show their students what their financial behavior cost them, the product just went where it was needed. And the second one came recently. Short clip.
นุ้ยเป็นผู้พิการทางสายตาแล้วนุ้ยก็เข้าถึงป้านวลน่ะเห็นเพื่อนนุ้ยน่าจะเป็นเพื่อนตาบอดด้วยซ้ำไปเนาะเขาแชร์พยายามจะหาแอปทำบัญชีที่ว่าเราเข้าถึงได้อะมาเยอะแล้วแต่นุ้ยก็ดูไม่ได้เข้าไม่ถึงนุ้ยก็มาดูป้านวลเราก็แค่กรอกข้อมูลเนาะและเราก็สามารถสร้างบัญชีค่าใช้จ่ายนี้อยู่ในหมวดไหนได้แล้วนุ้ยมองแล้วนุ้ยลองทำแล้วนุ้ยเข้าถึงอะค่ะมันง่ายดายแล้วมันก็สะดวกมากเลยอะเป็นอะไรที่นุ้ยชอบมากเลย
A user we interviewed told us they're blind. And the chatbot is the only financial tool that they're able to use to manage their finance. Not one of the bank apps, not one of the better funded alternatives, but ours. And the third one happens on an ongoing basis, all the time. Random people with no incentive, posting online that having our chatbot in their lives has made their lives less stressful. And even some were able to say that they were able to close off that credit card debt or get a handle on that gambling problem. Both an extremely and relevant problem in Thai society. And not every one of those people paid us for it. And some of them never will. Our chatbot is free to use for anyone who needs it. Like, sure, you can pay us for convenience, for features that make the experience smoother, but the core of it, things that make your life a little bit less stressful, that belongs to everyone. And the reason we can say this and stick to it is precisely because we chose to do so, and no one can say otherwise. And this might not be the case if we had taken an investment like a traditional startup. Now, there's a version of this that calls us naive, that we left money on the table, and maybe they're right. But I look at a blind person who can finally manage her finance, and I look at a student who finally understands what her financial behavior cost them, and I look at a stranger online who is able to close their credit card balance, and we think, that's not leaving money on the table. That's the profit. So let me come back to the question I started with. How do you know what to build? Here's what I actually believe after everything. The world is not full of solved problems. It's full of fashionable ones that get attention. The quiet ones, the unglamorous and slightly embarrassing problems that are persistent, they've always been there, those are wide open. And they're waiting for someone who's paying attention to do the right things. The reason we were able to get here today and build something of our own is because we looked at the unchanging things in the world, whether that be the problems or people's behavior. So, you want to build something? What unchanging things do you see? Thank you.